Welcome to part 2 of the classic Vibe Telecaster mod. It's time for electrics. The neck has gone because I'm going to do some work on that later, and this gives me more space to work with. Something to point out before I do the soldering: the Telecaster is normally wired so, with the switch here, and then volume, and then tone. I'm doing it this way around, which is quite a common mod, with the volume here and the tone in the middle and the switch on this side. This enables you to do some violin swells and also adjust that volume nice and easily for solos and rhythm work. And it keeps the switch out of the way when you're playing and thrashing about. All my wires are ready. I just need to tin a few of them and get that socket in. Originally on the jack socket there was a 2-core cable running, but this is now not going to be long enough to reach this pot here. So I have to take that off. Let's get our switch made up. Just going to pop that off there. I've chosen this switch because it's nice and clicky. And I think the user Sai is going to have fun clicking that switch around. That's a nice clean looking control plate. Time to mess it up slightly with some wiring. So we're going like this, and let's move that away. I'm going to do the bridge first, but I'm going to move the camera so we can see it a little bit closer. This is a 4-cable humbucker, so you can split the coils. However, we're not interested in doing that on this mod. Make sure that if you have a 4-cable, that the white and green are connected and then taped together, or I've got some heat shrink on here, because if you leave these uncovered, your pickup ain't going to work. Then you've got 2 ground wires. Those need to be wired together. And red is the hot one. Let's go for it. I'm going to be using this vintage style braided cloth wire. And the great thing about this is it's pre-tinned, and you can just push the cloth back and get that soldered on there, which is really useful and saves a little bit of time. This one now needs to go to the middle of the tone pot. Time to get the tone pot connected to the volume. That's the middle one on the tone, here to the bottom rung on here. Incidentally, I haven't tightened these pots up yet, and the reason being is I like a little bit of play in there when I'm adjusting these wires. Here's my capacitor. It's a 0.22, which is the ones I use with humbuckers, and they are the most common humbucker capacitor. I like to have a nice tidy control plate, so that hot wire is running all the way underneath all these other wires, comes out the other side to attach to the jack socket. This inner braiding I like to burn away with my soldering iron. Don't know if that's the done thing, but certainly is easy to do. Everything's coming up as it should, so let's get that poked up in a little jack output cavity. Tighten the pots before we put the jack plate back on. Okay, I like to line up this hole over here first. Screw in some of the way. Making sure this one's nice and tight so you can't see the tape that's underneath. There we go, there's our control panel back in. On with the knobs. Body done. Let's go over to the neck. There's very little fret wear on this neck, but you might be able to see it's quite dirty. Not overly dirty, nothing in Gibson Studio terms of my previous videos, but something that needs to be a bit cleaner. First thing to do is to straighten that neck out. So that's the neck straightened out. I'm now going to use my fret rocker to mark where the frets are a little bit wobbly. If you look at where the black marker pen is, that's where we have high spots on the frets. And as you can see, almost all of the frets need some work. So I'm going to do the entire neck and stone the entire neck and then reshape them afterwards and polish them up. I'm going to do that off camera because I don't want to get metal filings on this desk. See how we get on. The neck is done, but I'm going to make these holes a little bit wider because the theory is that if you make the holes wide enough for these to just slip through and then bind into the neck, they pull the neck into the body a little bit tighter, therefore giving a little bit more sustain and more of that glorious tone. You'll see that these screws are about 4.9mm thick. So we wanted to make these holes about 5mm thick. They're currently about 4.5. Here's the 4.5 drill bit. As you can see, there's a little bit of dust just there, meaning I've made the holes a little bit bigger. Let's go for the 5. These holes are now drilled out. That's 4 lovely piles of dust there, meaning that the screw can just drop through and not really grip that body at all. So it'll grip the neck really tightly, but not the body. This is the original nut from the classic Vibe Telecaster, and it's just a plastic nut, and the previous owners put some pencil in the slots to lubricate the slots. However, I'm going to be putting in a graphite nut, which is what pencil lead is made of, and it's self-lubricating. So that's the lacquer cracked. I've also had to cut across the back here, because this is where the Squier guitars, even though the classic Vibe is fantastic for the money, the cutting corners, we're putting that nut in first. Also, you might notice that at the back here, there are 3 slots in the lacquer where the string has got caught. So that's not great. No word of a lie, that was one of the most difficult things I've ever done. Getting that out was stuck fast. What I did was I drilled a hole into the nut just here, and then managed to insert a screwdriver, lift it up slightly, it snapped, then I dug the rest out with this knife. Sadly, the camera cut out whilst I was doing that, and I was so engrossed in doing it that I didn't notice. Terribly sorry. The nut is in and it's time to reunite it with the body. It's quite a nice tight joint in there. So slot it in there as far as it will go. Get the neck plate. Now this time the screws are just pushing through the body because of the holes that are made bigger. So I'm just going to push them through a little bit. Time to start screwing. I'm pushing the neck in that direction and the body in this direction. And what I do is I'm going to hold it against my body, like that. So I'm actually holding that against my chest and pulling down. Not the best camera angle, I'm sorry. And there we go, body and neck reunited as one. Cool. Let's get some strings on this beast. I'm not sure if I mentioned, but the owner wants me to set this up as a drop D guitar, and Si prefers heavy bottom, so we're going to go with these sit strings. That's 10 to 52. Here it is, it's finished, and I think it looks stunning. All that black and chrome. I think Simon's going to love it, and I can't wait for him to get it and tell me what he thinks, but I'm going to play through a few riffs now and let you hear what it sounds like. So by adding a humbucker at the neck in this Tele, it's gone from a twang machine to a rock machine. Thanks very much for watching this series. If you haven't seen the first part, then go and check that out now. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.